What up, baby? It's your boy Raider Will, and I got my boy Vinny. What's going on, baby?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm still injured from my last game, so taking it easy.
Hey, man, this is what you get when you have a host that's a player, a guy that's putting that sweat equity across the world playing football, man. But hey, we told you guys, man, that we were always going to get quality guests. We got a guy, man, that gave me my break into Europe, a guy that brought me on and gave me the opportunity, a guy that's been all over Europe, has coached in D2, played JUCO, played the game, went to the service, doing big things, and still living out there, man. We got our boy, Gawin Campbell. What's going on, baby?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, there we go. What's going on, my brother?
Chilling, chilling, chilling.
Chilling, man. Just enjoying the day, just enjoying the day. So, hey, we brought you on, man. Hey, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. Tell us your story. What brought you to Europe, man? Break us in.
But I still wanted to be in football. Um, my brother had coached in Europe during the NFL Europe days, towards the tail end of the NFL Europe days, and he started me on that hunt. So I reached out and basically signed in France, and then started traveling the world from there. So.
Man, I mean, like, you have been traveling, bro. You've done France. You've done Spain. You live in Poland right now. You've been in the Philippines. We coached in Portugal together. I mean, like, you've been a world traveler, man. So how is it traveling the world, coaching the game, seeing the world for what it is?
Man, I can't. You can't compare it. Like you said, I was in the service. I was stationed in Italy. Living in Italy in the military was one thing. I grew up in Southern California, going to Mexico. So, like, visiting somewhere else in the world is another thing. Man, you're living in a different country without the support of, as we used to joke, little Americana, right? Like the American base when you're military, or the hotel you're staying in when you're traveling. Like, you're out there, you're hanging out. You have entered somebody else's fraternity house. This is how I compare European football, or international, because I've coached in Asia too, right? Like, this is how I compare international football.
Yeah.
Imagine fraternities in the U.S. If you're a member of Sigma Chi Alpha, I don't know, just making something up, right? At Arizona State, you can go to Sigma Chi Alpha at West Virginia University, and you'll kind of be accepted into that fraternity because you have a similar background, blah, blah, blah. But you're not part of that chapter, right? Bruh, like, it's like that with American football. Like, you got to keep in
hmm
mind your domestic players, depending on where you go and the structure of the team, but I'd say a majority of the time, 75 to 95% of the time, your domestic players are paying to play. So they're basically in a fraternity. They're there to hang out with their boys. It's more about the brotherhood, the camaraderie, than it is football's what they do,
Yep.
like in between going to the bar with each other, sort of idea, right? Like, and so you're coming in, and and it's weird though,
Yeah.
where it's a little different. The fraternity is, they're bringing you in. They're like, hey, you're our honored guest in our fraternity. Now just don't fuck it up on or off the field. And that's what I tell imports. I do a lot of work with imports. I was very lucky when I came to Europe that I had some really good imports my first year that kind of introduced me to what life is as an import. And one of the first things I learned, two things, two I carry this with me. Walter Pam, my running back my first year, like really, like he took me, I 10 years older, 15 years old. I don't know how old he is, but I'm 10 to 15 years older than him. He took me under his wing like a little brother because he had been in Europe already at that point for going on like 5 years, right? And he basically he taught me two very valuable lessons as an import. Your name, and I didn't understand them at that time. It's like your dad teaching you something when you're 6. You're like, man, what you talking about, crazy dude? And then you become an adult and you're like, I understand what dad meant, right? So it was the same thing. He said, your career as an import is going to rise or fall. You're going to sink or swim based on your relationship with fellow imports. You always need to take care of other imports, but one key thing that his words stick in my head still to this day, talking about 11, 12 years later, is don't tie yourself to an anchor. You're always going to try and help an import raise his boat. But if that dude is just a problem, you need to be able to be like, hey, I'm hands off, I'm out. And I'll get into both these, how they've applied in my career, right? Like, but and the other thing is that man, a majority of these teams, like I've seen more imports get fired for not fitting into the locker room. This includes coaches for not fitting into the locker room than they have for production, whether it's coaching or playing. I've seen more imports get sent home just because they had issues with the locker room, and that includes going out for beers on Friday night, like or after the game, Saturday night after the game, going out for the beers with the guys and either taking it too far or just being antisocial, right? Like finding that middle ground in between the two. I've had imports like you brought up, like we coached together in Portugal, right? And I think that's the best example now. Some of your audience, they don't know unless you got some of the old lumberjacks like watching this. They don't know what that locker room was. But I'll tell you, these dudes, first off, I wound up with the lumberjacks because I was moving to Portugal.
So,
No, that's not good.
I think it's computer shut.
We'll see. We'll see if he comes back. The thing is, does he even realize it happened, or is he still talking?
Uh,
Can you text him to make sure?
that's what I'm doing right now.
He might even be one of those dudes that doesn't even have his phone next to him. He's probably not even looking at his phone.
No, he's looking at it. He saw my message.
Okay. He's back.
There you go.
We talked about hey, one of my experiences in Philippines, right? They have P9 Wi-Fi. That's I don't have camera, I don't have any video right now. So it's loading. Hopefully you can
I can see it. Can you hear it?
I can hear you. I just can't see anything. I can't see myself or I can't see you.
No, we can see
we can see you.
can
So
see
that's
you,
the
Right,
most
yeah,
important.
I don't
so we
care.
can
I'm
record
ugly.
it.
I know I'm ugly. Your audience needs to know I'm ugly too. But like I was saying, so I wound up in Portugal because I needed to move to Portugal to try and get citizenship so I can be an EU citizen, be a dual citizen, all that, right? So I looked out for I looked for a team. I searched out for a team. One of my contacts that was my quarterback before had played with Lisbon Devils, and And he's like, "Hey, this team, they definitely are in need of some support like that. The Lumberjacks, they definitely need some help." So, and then it got creative, drawn off my experience at that time. I'd been in Europe for about 5 years, and the club didn't have a lot of money, so I had to reach out and work some deals, and figure out how am I gonna get imports here, because I knew the project that we had, of trying to build this kind of mid-level team, we'll say they had all the heart, they just didn't have the money to bring in the outside knowledge. um,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, how do I make this stronger? So, I basically advertised like, hey, I got a job. I'm going to provide you a house, but you fly here and you pay for it, right? One of like 100%. This is like red flag territory for imports, right? This is why I really had when I recruited Will and I recruited our OC. I had to be very like upright and be very just like lay my cards. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is why I can't pay you. I don't expect any money from you like in advance, because some of these, that was one of the things when I first started coming over here. There would be people on Euro players saying like, "Oh yeah, just pay us like 1,000 USD, and and then we'll buy your ticket and fly you over here." And I was just like, no, that's shady. So, I think I did countless video chats with Will and our OC, walking through the house, showing like, hey, we got an office space, we got like, here's your bedroom, here's the OC's bedroom, here's my bed, like going through like saying like, hey, we're good, we just don't have the money. And so, but those guys brought us in. I remember with Coach Will going to the soccer game that our president was the
Yeah,
yeah,
Jiggers,
he was the
at Pasos
sports manager
Ferreira.
or the social media director for one of the local top league soccer teams. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it was. Like those dudes that we would get picked up by the special teams coordinator, who was I think he was a head coach before I got there. He had some other role, or he was the president before Rui Jiga. Um, but yeah, like, and that's what it is. It's just it's networking. It's 100% networking.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Um, and it's being brought into that locker room. I think we had our season got cut short because pandemic started. I still remember. I still visually like vivid memory of sitting at the top of the stairs talking to both yourself and Ewat, saying like, "Hey guys, this pandemic's going. Like, here's the thing: you go home now, and no matter what happens, if the pandemic, it wasn't a pandemic at that point, but if things get better and we play a season,
Mm.
I'm going to
Let's
consider
start.
your obligation to be met, and you're going to have a good recommendation. But if it gets worse, I'd rather have you on a plane back home now
Mm-hmm.
rather than
Yep.
being stuck here with me right in the lockdowns, because keep in mind, nobody knew what the hell. We can all, anybody that was around at that time can go back to 2020, early 2020, and go, like, I never foresaw that coming, you know? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but one thing I got told, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, Will, we got along with those guys. Sometimes we had some problems in the house. Not gonna lie, I know, and I was a little difficult to live with at the time. Uh, but but I think we got along with our, it was like kind of a brotherhood thing where like, hey, we got our fights, but at the end of the day,
Yeah,
we know we're both gonna go into a dark alley together and come out together. Um, but one
absolutely.
thing I don't know if I ever told you, when we played the Crusaders, which like when did we go down there? Was that like our first game? I think it was like our first game or second game.
Yeah, when we went down there, yeah.
And the remember they had the American DC, and they had the very, we'll say, Americanized head coach. They told me, they're like,
Yeah.
they told me after the game, and I don't know if I told you on the bus after, or if I said anything to you, but they said this is not the same club just from last season. Like just in that time that we were there together, 3 months. I think, well, I was there about 3 months and you were there about a month and a half, I think, by the time that game came around. Um, they were like,
Yep.
this is not the same team. This is absolutely not the same team. We will see you in the finals this year. And they like they told and they wound up they had been in the last like 3 or 4 finals. They've won after the pandemic. They won the two finals after the pandemic. So this is not some club that doesn't know what they're talking about. So it's just to say that
Hmm.
we were brought into that club, like into that fraternity, and we were accepted, right? Like we had our cornerback's mom was our maid, right? Um, we
Yeah.
would go out with one of our old linemen and his girlfriend would take us to the grocery store, right? Like, and I think that right there, Portugal and Philippines for me sums up what being a import is. You're being brought into the family, and you need to contribute to that family. That's where the football comes in, but you also need to be a
Hmm.
member of that family, and that's where being personable and you could be a problem. Like I said, I wasn't the greatest dude in the world when we were together, and I had a lot of stress on my head that sometimes I took out in the wrong spots. But people understood it, and they could see what I was trying to do. They I don't know. You know this better than me because me trying to analyze how other people seeing is very self serving. But like at the end of the day, the heart was there. So some of the shortcomings were, I won't say overlooked, but were kind of like minimized, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, like when you talk about that, man, I mean, like I'm glad you brought that up. Like, there's things that obviously are different, right? And everybody has a different vision. And when you talk about coaches and having different views on things, you look at it and you say, man, like at the end of the day, did we accomplish what we wanted to? Yeah, we changed the team into believing something that they didn't believe themselves. When you take a team that is struggling, a team that has no direction, a team that like has a lot of individual talent, and you're able to start producing something, right? And the guys were believing in themselves, and it was hard because like they're not used to football like we are.
Yep.
Like when we talk about going to practice twice a week, talk about more complicated schemes. I'd be like, I remember how you told me we got to keep it simple, stupid.
Hmm.
I remember you
Yes.
gave me the play. Like my first defensive playbook in Europe was given to me.
Hmm.
He's like, hey, we're gonna run this. This is what I'm thinking. We'll make adjustments after that.
Hmm.
Cool.
And I did,
We did all that and we looked at stuff.
and that was the thing, right? Like we ran a playbook. Both yourself and Ewok ran a playbook that I developed because in had pandemic not hit, right? Like so, we're talking about planning for the future. I didn't say you have to run this. It was like, hey, I need to be explained what changes you're making and why you're making them and what are our standards,
Yep.
because I knew damn well for me or for myself and the Lumberjacks, this was and that's how I sold it to you. This is a stepping stone. This is a chance to get your foot in the door. So I knew like next season you're probably gone because nothing's going to change financially. But if you have a good season, that's going to get you a chance to get an actual contract where they're going to pay for your flight and give you a salary sort of idea, right? And so I had this conversation, and me being a defensive guy, right? Like your playbook was easy to explain to you and understand what changes you might make and blah blah blah, right? Um, on the offensive side of the ball, I needed it more for me than I did anything else to understand. But like that was the thing, like with talking to our OC, it was like, hey, I got to be able to either run this next year, or if I get another dude that's going to come in to explain how it's different. So I
Yeah.
need to know what's going on because I'm planning to be here long term. And literally, my goal, not that I was just hiring you guys for a season, right? Like, my goal was that you guys would, and I think I told both of you this in the interview process. My goal is that you guys get the fuck out of here. Go make a
Yeah.
name for yourself and get
Yeah.
out. Go get paid, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's exactly what you said.
mhm. And that's I realize that not you people will see me across my career in Europe, and I realize I'm a bit of a difficult dude to get along with, but the one thing that comes through is I'm straightforward with it, right? And so
Yeah.
you know but Portugal for me sums up what it means to be an import. Our experience in Portugal, we did what we could with what we had, and we took. Sometimes you're going to land at a top tier team, just like on your first contract. My first contract with X was with Aix-en-Provence Argonauts in France. Um, they were
Yep.
in back in the days of the Big Eight and stuff. They had appearances in the Big Eight and Big
Yeah.
Six and stuff like that. And then they fell on a little bit of hard luck. And then I happened to join them as they were rebuilding, and I was part of that effort to rebuild. Um, and then sometimes you're just going to wind up at a small club that just gets you like I recruited yourself and Ewad on. It gives you a chance to get your foot in the door. And sometimes that the hardest thing to getting into Europe is getting into Europe. You know.
Yep, that's true. My biggest question is you also mentioned your experience in the Philippines is very similar as the one in Portugal. How does someone end up in the Philippines coaching football? Because in my opinion, I've never heard of football in the Philippines.
Right.
So
So
how was that for you?
yeah. So this goes back to and I think this goes back to those two lessons that I was taught by Walter early in my career. That So I wound up. I was in France. I went to Spain. Then I went to Poland. And my quarterback, my first year in Poland, my quarterback and head coach was half Filipino and half Canadian. Um, and he when during the off season he started that was like the first year was the year I coached with him. He started to go home during the off season to Philippines. Um, Ran into a guy who at the time, now keep in mind this is like 2015, okay, but he ran into a guy who used to play for Volkovi in Belgrade or in Serbia. Belgrade, yeah. Volkovi that was
Okay.
living in Philippines and was playing. They had a league in Philippines, but it it was really strange. Like it's a really because I think there were six teams at the time. All six teams were based out of Metro Manila. Philippines is not exactly a place
Okay.
where you can
Yeah.
have different teams in different cities. So basically, you would have kind
Okay.
of jamboree style, right? There would be like three games on one day. You'd have like the 10 o'clock game, the noon game, and the 2 o'clock game, or whatever, right? And they all played on the same field.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there 3 seasons in a row, and
Damn.
the quarterback. I was there two as the DC and starting free safety, and then one as the DC. But like the
Okay.
quarterback from one team would be the quarterback for a different team the next season. And his receiver would have gone to a different team, and his running back was with the third team.
Yeah.
Like it was just,
Yeah.
it was really weird. I always called that my
I can
playcation
imagine.
sort of time. right? I was on vacation, but I was still playing and coaching. It was a fun
Sounds fun though.
experience. And we had a we had a bit of money because, like I said, the president who played for both Volkovy and the Wild Boars, um, he had a bit of money, so he financed the team. Like they paid my rent most of the time when I was down there and stuff like that. And so, yeah, no, it was a great experience. I've seen, I can't tell you. I traveled a lot in the military, and then also I worked. I worked as a contractor for the U.S. government. I traveled a lot of places, but seeing it through the lens of football was a completely different experience because I was incorporated into local society. Um, and Philippines was one of the greatest experiences in that regard. So
Okay. So now you're in Poland, right? We go and now you're at the Warsaw Eagles. Is that correct?
so yeah, no,
Okay.
I'm officially with the Warsaw Eagles. Now I do have a consulting company that I stood up here because I said I was a defensive guy. That's not exactly true. I'm a special teams guy by trade. I've just oriented towards defense when it comes to offense and defense. Started a special teams advising company back in 2000 and I think 17 or 18, 2018. Um, Not a lot of traction on it, but um, currently, me personally, I'm under contract with the Warsaw Eagles. My advising company, 3D Football, is currently working with Wielki Łódź in Poland. Um, so yeah, me personally, like me as an individual, I'm working with two different teams in the same
Yeah.
league, and Poland right now only has one division. They only have kind of a super league sort of mentality. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm working with two different teams in the same league.
Yeah.
And do you have the both on both teams? Do you have different roles,
Yeah,
or
so
do you have the same role on both teams?
I mean, there's a lot of bleed over, but it's essentially officially I have two different roles. So with the Warsaw Eagles, I'm the director of football analytics. Basically, based on personal life, I couldn't really dedicate myself to coaching this year because of personal life situations.
Hmm.
And so, but I didn't want to take a step away from football. I wanted to be involved in some way. So, basically, what I do for the Eagles is I do all the analytics, like Moneyball style, right? Like, I'm who's the fat comedian in Moneyball? I'm basically that guy. I crunch the numbers, right? Like so that's what I do. I put in all the data, all the plays, all the formations, and then I give tendency reports. I also do scouting reports. I give recommendations. I don't give recommendations like we should run this or that. I look at, for example, their defense. Hey, anytime we're in this formation, the flat is open as long as you attack it in this manner, right? And so I help the coordinators kind of look at what, not so much what do we have in our playbook, but how their systems are weak, how they're, and now with Vilke, um, I am a defensive consultant and a special teams consultant. Basically, I help them develop the game plan. I again do a lot of the data analysis because, as Will can attest, like I'm a firm believer. Even as a head coach, I was numbers. Tell me the numbers because if I'm if 80% of the time they're running this coverage, right? I may be wrong 2 out of 10 times, but I'm going to be right out of 10 times. So I'll accept those two times,
Hmm.
as long as I have an
Yeah.
answer. Um, and so that's basically what I do. I also use analytics. to help them figure out, hey, maybe a little bit of sky here, maybe a little bit of cloud here, in this situation, maybe this, maybe that, right? So I am a little more coordinator oriented with that second team. And there again, that goes to the difference of the teams. The Vilke is a low budget, low roster team, and so they're kind of at the mercy, kind of the lumberjacks, where they're at the mercy of what they can afford to learn financially.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And the head coach and OC is a really good friend of mine. Again, going back to, you get more jobs by being friends with imports than you do by having a good name with the team, sort of idea. He reached out to me. I was in talks with them until I signed with the Eagles. One of the stipulations I had with the Eagles was, hey, if Vilke reaches out with me, as long as it doesn't interfere with my duties or my loyalty to the Eagles, I'm going to help him. And the Eagles were like, yeah, no problem. We don't play him during the regular season. And if we see him in the playoffs, that's a different story. But yeah, we're cool with that. And so when I broke off talks with Vilke, I said, hey, if you guys need anything at all, like, let me know, right? And the head coach and OC reached out to me about halfway through the season. They had just played one of the top, because Poland's broken down. There's 13 teams, and you have the top 6 teams, then you have the mid 5 teams, and then you have the other 2, right? That's kind of how it's broken. Everybody, it's a super league, but it's broken down that way. And you get strength of schedule points based on if you played a top 6 team versus a mid 5 and a bottom.
Yeah.
And so Vilke's a mid 5 team, and they played a top 6 team, and they just realized, like, hey, what we're doing is good against mid 5s, but we're not happy being here. We want to compete against top 6. Whether we win or lose, we want to compete. So after they played their first top 6 game, they reached out to me and they're like, hey man, can you help us? And so I started working with them, and we just, in the 2 games, first game I was with them, they lost in overtime. But they held a team who's just on a roll this season. It was a bottom 2 team that didn't win any games, and now they're sitting at like number 4 or number 5 in the table, right? But lost in overtime to them, and the final score in overtime was 16-14. So their defense, when I saw the playbook,
That's close.
I've told them, like, your defense, how I would summarize your defense, whether we're talking about the playbook, whether we're talking about what you're putting on film, is chaos. It's just chaos. It's disorganized. And all I went in and I just kind of messed around with getting some sort of structure, some sort of base, and some sort of like identity. And the guys are buying in. They, and then the second game, we went in and shut out another team. This is a team with no wins, but let's be honest, getting a shutout, I don't care who. The Eagles have basically been wrecking shop in Poland the last, this is the 3rd season. We just set the record as of May 1st. We set the record in Poland for the longest unbeaten streak, like number of games in Polish history, right? And so they've been wrecking shop.
Right.
But even the Eagles struggle to get shutouts, because that's not, in football, that's one of, like, a perfect, I don't care what level you're at, a perfect season's a hard thing, a shutout's a hard thing. I don't care your ability versus your opponent's ability. And Vilke got it the second game I was working with them. They wound up getting a shutout. Came down to an amazing goal line stance. The other team had the ball 1st and 5, or 1st and goal from the 5. And came down to a 4th and inches and they stopped the QB dive, to maintain that shutout.
Dang.
But yeah, no, it was intense. We won't get into what the film shows or not, but I will say that the refs did not signal a touchdown on the field, and we'll stand with that one.
That's the most important.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I
So-
think, and that was one of the things I told the guys is like, whether he got in or not, all 11 of you were flying to the ball. Somebody tackled the fullback and just kept his feet driving, and that was what you could like visually see. And so when you see all that commotion that supports the defense, the referees are human beings. I'm a rules guy. I know what the rules say, and I'm looking a lot of the times where the refs are looking. I'm looking at what they're looking at. I'm not just like an emotional, like that should be a holding, right? Like I'm understanding where they're looking, what their mindset is. And the one thing I would say is they're human beings. So based on what they're trained to look at, when they see all this commotion, they see high energy from a defense, they're going to assume on questionable calls that the defense was right, that defense stopped them in this case, right? I always tell my defense, I'm like, hey, man, if there's a ball on the ground and it may or may not be, it may be a fumble or an incomplete pass, right? You pick it up and you celebrate, you scoop and score, you celebrate like it was a fumble if you recover it. Because
Yep, you never know.
yeah, you make the ref be a bad guy.
You never know. Yeah,
sell
exactly.
it.
You never know what the ref is going to do in that situation.
He may just kind of like be like, well, I don't want to be the party pooper, so I'm just gonna say, yeah, it was a fumble, even though I know it was an incomplete pass, right? What's the? I always tell my defenses, I'm like, you celebrate that. 9 times out of 10, they're gonna rule it an incomplete pass. But that one time that it truly was an incomplete pass, and they give you a fumble on it, is going to make up for the 9 times you look like a fool celebrating picking up an incomplete
True.
pass.
True. Yep. I like that.
No lies. But you said something, Gavin, about a good import. What is a good import for you? Like when you bring in a guy that comes from the United States or from another team, what are you looking for? I mean, like you've coached. I mean, like you coached Oscar, sir. With he played with Vinny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oscar.
I
Yeah.
got, hey, let's be
Hopefully
clear.
we-
I love Oscar to death, but let's be honest. I kind of adopted Oscar. Like my head coach came to me and said he's Polish and he's coming back, and I'm like, well, okay, cool story. Like, no, I love Oscar to death. He's an awesome dude.
He's a nice guy. Yeah.
But so when I'm looking for an import now, there's going to be a difference,
He
right?
says, but
What? Dot.
Man.
We'll leave it hanging. No, but
Yeah, that's fine.
But bringing up Oscar is a good point because this breaks down into 2 categories, right? If we look at, let's say I had the budget. I mean, when I hired you in EWAT, right? Like I hired who could take my contract, essentially, right? Like you guys were good fits. I turned down other people just because the vibe wasn't right, but I knew I wasn't offering much. And so I knew I couldn't be so hard on my standards. But if I have a budget, I'm paying for your flight. That's what I'm referring to. I still probably would have hired both of you. Not gonna lie. But if I'm paying for your flight, I'm paying for your housing, I'm giving you a salary, I'm doing all this stuff, right? I'm gonna break you down into 2 categories. Are you an A import or an E import? Okay. So an A import, an American import, right? I want somebody, you need to bring some knowledge to my club. You need to make my club better. Kind of what I did, and I held the standard for you and EWAT as well, even though the contracts were different. Like we talked about, you need to explain to me what you're changing in the playbook, how we can recorrect it if it's not, all that stuff. I recruit people that think like me. I don't want everybody just to agree with me, but I want you to have the base philosophy or moral compass or whatever you want to call it, ethical compass. That my general philosophy is the Eagles and Vilke need to be better next year because I was here this year. Right? So if you're a dude that's going to impart some knowledge, I've been in Europe now since 2013, so we're talking about 13 years. I do my research, I do my study. I'm not necessarily involved in the game in the US, so new innovations that are coming out, I need someone to coach me on that and that has some practical knowledge of it. So if you're an A import, I'm definitely going to bring you over to impart football knowledge on the club, whether it's me or the club as a whole. Also keeping in mind that this is a fraternity that you're going to be accepted into. So if you have any sort of moral history issues, I'm probably gonna bypass. I had a FBS a former FBS player at my last club. We were talking to a guy that I think it was Texas, pre-SEC days. He played at I don't remember Texas but one of those big name like blue blood type schools. He was like a like QB2 or QB3 type dude. So he wasn't a big name, but he was definitely in the flow. And I'm talking to my head coach. I sat in because of my my relationship, my desire to have a relationship with imports. I sat in for 3 seasons. I sat in on every import interview as a DC or special teams coordinator, depending on what season. I sat in on the offensive import. I sat in on the defensive import, even when I wasn't the DC, because the head coach wanted me there to give some credibility to the team that, hey, we take care of imports. And the head coach valued my opinion, and he would ask me. He's like, he was a domestic guy. He was a Polish guy, and he would ask me. He'd be like, "What do you think of that guy?" And I'd be like, "Here's what I think." Right? And the film doesn't lie, so we both kind of knew, and we had similar sort of football mentalities. So we both kind of knew where that dude laid as far as a player. But then I would give him the vibe of, this is how I feel this guy. And we bypassed on a dude that was like I said, I think it was QB2 or QB3 at a big like blue blood FBS program. And we wound up signing like a D3 dude that year, I think. And we bypassed it. He interviewed great, he did all that. I'm like, man, he's not coming here to make us better. He's coming here to get his highlights. And that's fine if that's your thing. If that's your thing, cool. But you do have to impart some knowledge, right? Like you don't have to come just to make my club better. But that has to be a byproduct of why you're here. So I'm not going to bring you as an A import if I get the vibe that you're only here for you and you're not going to impart your knowledge. Now an E import's a slightly different standard. Mainly because of cost benefit analysis. E-import, obviously you have to produce for me on the field, but my biggest eliminator, if you will, for an E-import is, are you going to be a cancer? There's a reason that you're looking for things outside of your home city club. Right? Like, where do you play, Vinny? What country?
I played in Sweden, Germany, and France, and Belgium.
What's your home country though? Like, what's your nationality?
Belgium. I'm Belgium.
So there's a reason you're not. Like, if you're talking to me, there's a reason you're not playing in Belgium this year, right?
I am playing.
No. But I'm saying, if you were talking to me.
If I was an import,
if you're trying to be an import, there's a reason you're not playing in Belgium this year, right? And so If that's to make a break for yourself to get into bigger leagues, cool. That's awesome. I can mess with that. We brought up Oscar, right? His thing, he's Polish. He was in Belgium and he came back here because he had to handle some stuff. And so he decided to play for
Yep.
us. Um, and so like that's a thing. Now, if you're leaving your club because you have problems with your club and you're just trying to get out of there and you don't want to go, like for example, um, like Oscar, I'll bring up him, right? Oscar played for the Shotgunners.
Hmm.
Let's say he was Belgium. He just didn't want to go play for the Tribe, right? I don't even know geographically if that would
Yep.
work, but I'm just as an example,
Yeah. Well, it's pretty far, but yeah, I understand what you
right?
mean.
And
Yeah.
so a guy like that that's just essentially running. Are you moving to something, right? Like so, are you in Oscar's case coming back home to handle your stuff here? So you have a reason to be here. Um, if
Yep.
you're using Polish football, because I spent most of my time in Poland, right? If you're using Polish football as a
Hmm.
way to get into a higher tiered like country organization to hopefully be in GFL, cool. You're going to something. If you're just like, you know what, I don't want to play for my home club anymore. Like if you're running away from something, you're probably somebody that I'm gonna avoid recruiting. Um,
Hmm.
Based on the fact that chances are you're going to bring some of whether it's you or whether it's the club mentality, there's some cancer there
Yeah.
in that relationship and you're probably going to bring some of that with you in my experience. I may be wrong, but I'm not willing to bet my contract on you being the exception,
I understand that.
you know.
I wouldn't be mad about not getting recruited for those reasons. But I would say I think in my personal situation you would have probably never got me into the team because I've moved so many in between
That's
teams
not
for certain reasons. But
that's a misnomer. That's a huge misnomer. Um that's again it goes it's, right like because everybody has this idea.
hmm
I've sat in like I've my last two stops my last two stops I was the head coach for 2 years and then I was the DC and then became the assistant the associate head coach and I spent 3 years there. You take out that,
hmm
I was a year to year to year, like new contract, I'm off.
hmm
And every team offered me
Yeah.
every team except for like two has offered me a renewal contract, right? Like come back next year, sort of deal.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and it just wasn't the again. It gets into that year to year thing, right? Like he only had 1 year here, 1 year here. Well, why did he only have 1 year here? Was it because the club didn't want to bring him back? Was it because the club could not, they paid this year, but they couldn't afford next season? Was it because he's trying to move on? Right? Like there's so many dynamics that's what I would look into. I wouldn't dismiss I wouldn't dismiss you because you spent 1 year in Sweden, 1 year in Belgium, 1 year in Finland.
hmm
I would ask you why. And
hmm
if there's a
I
reason,
would, yeah, I would have my
what's
answers.
that?
I would definitely have my answers for that, but I feel like and this is my own experience. I've changed a lot of times, especially in Belgium. I played for four different teams in Belgium already. And the reason within Belgium that I changed so much is because of every time I get to a team, there's not enough growth for me to have at a certain
Mm-hmm.
team, or there's not enough ambition for a team to do something.
And
And that's why I left a lot of the teams because I was not feeling what they want to get to as a team, or I didn't get enough coaching at certain teams, so I had to move on. So I think those are my reasons for
right?
changing that much. But
And now
I think everyone has their own opinions on those things.
mhm. And now with that,
Yeah, and those are
what's up?
go ahead.
What's up, Will?
Go ahead.
Well,
Go
with
ahead. Go
that,
ahead.
right? You gave me so right now, right? I look at it through the analysis of I want to dig deeper. I'm literally how I recruit people is I try and eliminate you. What are my reasons? Give me a reason to eliminate you. I want give me a reason to erase your name off my board. I want to finish this call and not have to talk to you ever again. That's how I go into recruiting, right?
Yeah.
And with that being said, so you have not caused me to erase you from my board yet, based on what you just said. Now, you definitely gave me a line of questioning that I need to go down to figure out who you are as a person or as a football player, right? Like as an import I'm bringing in. So, like for example, the next line of questioning in your case, I'd be like, okay, um, you weren't seeing growth. Now, how do you define growth? Right now, I'm looking for what I'm looking for here. Are you talking about? I'm not. What position do you play, Vinny?
Receiver.
Okay, that's fine. So, are you not getting fed the? Are you not getting targeted enough, or are you not being taught how to
Also.
get off a jam? What are you talking about growth, right? And those would be the questions that I would start asking, because if you start talking about
Yeah.
you're not getting targeted enough, you start to get your name erased from the board. If you start talking about like, look,
Understandable.
I've always struggled to get off a jam, especially if you show, we'll say some vulnerability or some weakness that you identify, you just haven't got the right help to fix it, right? Like for
Yep.
some reason, I cannot get off a pressed receiver to save my life. And I've never had a coach that can help me do that. So I'll start out the season, have a great start of the season, then teams start pressing me. And I've had no coach. They just decide not to target me anymore rather than teach me how to get off a jab. And then I'm like, okay, this guy wants to grow. This guy wants to learn. This guy isn't worried that he's not getting targeted. He's worried that he's not having the skills to make himself a target,
Yeah.
right? Like, and so that's kind of how recruiting goes for me. Is I want to eliminate you. Back to Will's original question, I want to eliminate you from the board. I'm going to give everybody an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. Now my goal is to eliminate you from the board, and it's all going to be based on our flow.
I like that.
I can agree with that. And I'd be like, what I like is what you said right there. It's like when you're recruiting a player, you really got to do your like research, right? Why are you coming here? You know, are you going to be a benefit towards the team? Are you just looking out for yourself? I'd be like, are you a guy that says, hey, are you able to put the team above yourself? You know, are you able to do different things? Like a lot of people say, oh, well, this is the only position I play. Well, that's not the only position I require on this team. So
True.
all those things, are you coachable, right? People say, hey, well, you know, I haven't been taught this. Well, are you willing to learn? Are you willing to make those adjustments to make that happen?
I'll tell
And
you
I think
one.
those are crucial parts.
Talking about
Go
coachable and
ahead.
are you going to contribute? Another thing, I don't want I don't want a yes man, right? I don't want a guy that's just going to be like, you're the coach, you decide. I want a guy that's going to handle
Mm-hmm.
disagreements professionally, right? And so I'll do when I'm recruiting defensive guys, especially defensive guys. I'll be like, okay, what's your preferred system, right? Like, and then within that system, I'll just do I'll just do a categorically unsound slip of the tongue. One that I can backtrack later so he's not worried about like, oh my God, I'm going to someone that doesn't understand football, right? Like, but I want to see how you're going to
Mm-hmm.
correct me. Like I said, I'm trying to eliminate you I don't want you on my board anymore. You could literally be the MVP of the NFL this season. I don't want you on my board. And that's my philosophy on how I'm going to get the best candidate. If I can eliminate you from the board, now I can start concentrating on dudes that are still on the board, right? And so I'll do a little slip of the pen or slip of the tongue and see how they're going to correct me. Right? Are they just going to let it slide because you're off the board? Bye. If you're going to be like, oh, you're an idiot. You can't send 2 guys in the A gap or something like that, right? Then if you're just going to call me out, but if you're going to handle it professionally and be like, hey, is the mic really supposed to go in the A gap when the nose is going in there? And be like, oh, good catch, right? So you found your voice. You found your voice to correct me, and you did it professionally and tactfully. You're staying on my board. You're moving up on my board. You know.
I got you.
I like that.
So, Gavin, if our followers want to follow you and your teams, where do we follow you guys at, man? Where do we watch? Where are you guys at?
All right, so a couple things. First off, me personally, I need to start updating it again. But I have my advising company, 3dfootball.org, O-R-G, is the website. You can find us on all socials with 3D Football 2, right? So it's at 3D Football and the number 2 because I got locked out of the previous accounts. You can find the Warsaw Eagles on Facebook and Instagram. You can find Wilki. Now keep in mind that's with the W because in Polish a W makes a V sound. Wilki Wooch on Facebook. I'm not sure if they're on Instagram. You can also find the Polish all Polish football league games are live streamed on the PFL's YouTube channel. That's you're gonna look up Polska, Polska, football, Futbol, Liga, Liga, on YouTube, and you'll find all Polish football games on that on those.
Yeah.
So
already saw games on there. So
Man.
and
So
CEFL game tomorrow. Warsaw Eagles versus the Bristol Apaches, I believe, or Aztecs.
yeah, the Aztecs. Yep.
Yep. So that'll be
Yep.
interesting. That'll
It's
be
gonna be a great game.
quarterfinal
Yep.
game. Yep. So
bad. So what does the future have in store for you, my brother?
man, I'm just trying to get through this season, bro, one day at a time. For right now, I'm working, like we said, I'm working with the Eagles. I'm working with Wilkie. We'll see. I don't talk about next season until this season's over. Even with clubs that I'm with, I tell them, hey, we'll do contract negotiations at the final whistle of this season. So we'll see. I don't know. Probably based on personal life, probably going to be in Poland. Again, we'll see if I'm back with Wilkie, if I'm back with the Eagles, if I'm back with both, if I find a new home. We'll see.
I like it. I liked it a lot today because it's nice to hear how, especially the recruiting part. Because as a player, I only saw my side of getting recruited and how those talks went. So it's nice to hear how guys on the teams actually think about the process and doing all those things with the guys. So
And I've
it's
been
really nice for me to finally hear that other side.
I've been on essentially all three sides of that equation. You know, I was the import trying to break into Europe. I was the import that was trying to get my next contract. I've also been like in Portugal, and also prior to Portugal when I was with a small club in Poland. I've been essentially the board director dealing with the stuff. And I've also been the coach, and so I see it from all the different angles. And I'll tell you, it's a lot of the stuff is explainable. You know, I remember sending out 50 emails on Euro players, 50 messages, and literally getting no answers back, and being so pissed that I didn't get answers back.
Same.
Right?
Same.
But let me explain something. Flip that over. the contract I offered Will, if you don't mind me putting it out there, Will.
Go ahead.
Basically, Will had to pay his own flight over to Portugal. He got no salary. I gave him a place to live. And I think that if I remember right, that was about the sum of it. And and the club made sure we had rides to practice and games.
Yeah.
That was about the sum of the whole thing. Anything extra was something extra. Like I think Will asked about gym membership. I'm like, dude, I cannot offer it. I can work on it. But if that's going to be a deal breaker for you, then probably not the right thing because I can't guarantee it, right? But that being said, even for that job where I'm like, I'm paying you nothing, you're coming over because you love football and you want a place to stay in Europe. I had 300 emails. 300 emails on Euro players. Right? Like, so I don't have time to send everybody a standard thanks, but no thanks. Right? Like,
Yeah, understand.
as I said, I'm eliminating dudes from the board. That dude's eliminated just based on what he presented here. Right? And I will say the one thing that drives me nuts, since we're talking about recruiting real quick, don't tell me you are going to win me a championship. I hate when I get influenced to send this message. It does two things. First off, I literally just talked about how hard it is to get a shutout or a perfect season or da-da-da, right? So for you to guarantee me a championship, first off, that tells me you don't know how football actually works, right? Because anybody could win. Like, you know, I was kind of joking a little bit with Vilke, like, hey, just as a heads up, I'm going to help you guys, but just so you know, when we're in the Polish Bowl, I'm going to have to be wearing blue and white, right? Like, I was joking with them, but like, Vilke should, on paper, should have no reason to be in the Polish Bowl, but that's how football works. They may get a week here, be in the Polish Bowl. And then the other thing you do, and this is what, back to, I'm bringing you into a fraternity that exists, and we're going to accept you as a full-fledged brother without any sort of pledge week. By you saying that you're the missing link to us winning a championship, says that my guys that are here on the ground year in, year out, practice to practice, aren't worth a damn without you. That's not a good way to come into a fraternal organization.
No, that's
right.
true.
And so that's why that
That's
pisses me off so much.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Yo, so guys, we're at the hour mark. Yo, our boy, Gavin Campbell, Eagles, director of everything. This guy does, man, I don't have the titles to give this man because he's had them all. But guys, he just gave you guys the information, man, on what he's looking for when he's bringing in imports. The ability for these teams to do that, giving you guys the scoop of how hard it is to get into Europe, the sacrifices that have to be committed, the things that he's done. If you guys need to hit him up, make sure that you hit him up on Facebook. He's on there sometimes. Look up Frag. You'll find them.
Don't send my personal. Send it to my 3D football. Don't send my personal. If you do that, that's a Speaking of recruiting, if I know you, we're good. Like, we can reach football, right? If I don't know you, that's another thing. I got 300 messages on Europlayer. I get another year in, year out, and it always never fails. It's when I'm still negotiating my contract. I get like 50 messages on my Facebook account, my personal one, like, hey man, you looking for a DN this season? It's like, man, we get one import on the field at a time. I doubt it's going to be spent on a DN, but I don't even have a club I'm going to yet. So avoid, unless you know the coach, avoid hitting up on his personal Facebook. If he's got a fan page, hit that up all day long. If he's cocky enough, or if he's like,
there you go.
if he's one of those dudes that wants to be influencer style coach, go ahead, hit that up. Personal, keep in mind we're still human beings, right? I got a kid of my own, I got a mom, I got brothers, I'm doing all that through my personal stuff. If I want my football world to come into that, right? So if somebody wants to hit me up, I'm always here for imports. That's my number one thing. A club. I have a good name or bad name with a club. The future clubs aren't going to hear about that. But I've gotten more contracts because an import told the president, "Hey man, I messed with this dude in Slovakia, and this dude's the real deal." So I got clubs hitting me up because of my time with this particular import, right? That sort of idea. So if you're going to try and get in to that import community, don't start it off by violating the privacy. If that makes sense, what I'm saying,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
If I know you personally, and hey, like I got one dude that's played in Slovakia for or Czech the last couple of years. He hits me up every season, but I know this dude. We were in the World Games together, and so I don't mind something like that. And it's like, nah, you know what? I'm not in a position right now that I can offer anything. But I know some clubs that are looking. So here's the clubs I know that are looking. Like we have that. I've never coached or played with this dude, but we have that sort of relationship. We've built it up over time over here.
Yep.
But these dudes send me friend requests that I don't even know. And I'm like, you're doing the Shadori Sanders, like, check the time thing. I'm probably not. Your message is gonna sit in my spam folder. Yeah, hit up fan pages. Don't hit up coaches and player personal accounts. You're basically invading into their life, asking them a favor, right? Like. True. That's like asking your neighbor that you've never talked to help you move your couch out of your, like, man, I don't know you like that. You know.
That's true.
Hit me up on 3D football if you need anything. If I feel like I can allow you into my personal space and my personal account, then by all means, I'm gonna send that invite. But hit me up 3D football and the number 2 on Facebook, Instagram. I think even I have a TikTok, but I don't know. I'm not a social media guy.
Well, we won't talk about TikTok.
Yeah, we won't do.
Oh,
we won't talk about TikTok.
My bad. That's a strange way to ask for the time. You got TikTok, man? It's 3:00. What are you talking about? But.
Well, hey guys, we appreciate you guys listening in. Make sure you guys tune in for the next one. Episode 9 is a wrap. Let's go, baby. To the next one. Peace.